I asked Miss Macy what she wanted me to talk about today because I've been thinking about retreat. I have not thought at all about what I want to talk about tonight. So this morning she said, I have a thing, and it's kind of a specific thing, but I thought this is great, and I don't know if I can talk about that for the entire class, but I'll kind of open it up to something a little bit more general. So the general thing is the common trials and tribulations, the common challenges of meditation. And one of them is kind of related to Catherine's question or experience, which is I find myself trying to push out thoughts when I'm meditating. Is that what you said? Mm-hmm. And this is a common thing. And the other point that she made was, this is something that I think I've been doing for a while, but I just noticed it. So maybe noticed it for the first time. And there are plenty of things. There is a whole world of joyous discoveries that you will have in your meditation practice of crap that you're doing wrong, that you wish that you weren't doing, and you're going to go, oh, I've been doing this for years. I've been meditating every day for about 20 years, and I still constantly find stuff that I'm doing wrong and that I've been doing since the beginning. And some of it is new stuff that I've been doing wrong, but usually it's like I'm just chipping away at what have I been messing up? What have I been, complacent about? And I'm eventually going to get it. But for now, you okay, ma'am? It's this face you keep making.
No, it's all good.
All right, I'm going to keep talking.
Yes,
So this experience is like when we sit to meditate and we're trying to free our minds of thought. We notice that sometimes this experience of trying to free ourselves takes on more of a feeling of oppression. It's like I'm trying to oppress my thoughts. I'm trying to fight against them. I'm trying to push them out. And I think that is never going to work, because it's like that saying, what we resist persists. What we fight against, we experience that as a fight. We experience that as something that it's like we give it more power. When we have a thought and we try to push it, then it's like we're pushing against something versus the idea of accepting it and just letting it through. So the first thing is like what Ms. Macy discovered is I have to recognize that I'm doing it. And this is going to come from just regular practice. This is going to come from having an open mind, not going into meditation and just doing it the same way that I've always done it, but basically deciding I'm going to be extra aware this time. I'm really going to see when these thoughts are coming in. I'm going to recognize the process that I have to deal with them. A great piece of advice that I don't hardly ever take, but I think is wonderful, and you guys should do it for sure, especially if you're having this same issue, is when you have a thought, instead of fighting against it and instead of trying to push it out, you just label it as thought. And that has a tendency to take away all of the emotion and all of the anxiety about it. We love to sit and meditate and make ourselves more anxious and angry because I'm not meditating the way that I want to be right now. But if you have the thought and you just say literally thought, so it's like I recognize that my mind is going down this way, and I finally come back to the realization that I'm supposed to be meditating and I am so far off not meditating. Instead of going, I'm not meditating, what's wrong with me? And instead of even trying to retrace the thought to its origin, which is what we love to do also, that's just another way that our brain loves to try to stay out of meditation. You just label it thought and it's gone. you just usher it right out. It's kind of the same idea as I just like accept it. I just open the door and let it go. So this is going to come down to, on some level, just like a different kind of feeling with your meditation. If you enter into meditation with acceptance, if you are sitting and kind of just allowing what is happening to happen, then it will be easier to do this. And it all has to start with the recognition that I'm doing this thing that I don't really want to be doing anymore. So I'm going to open up to you guys. This is everything that you're going to tell me right now is going to be some flavor of something that I've heard 100 times and something that I've experienced 100 times. So we'll kind of boil it down to a few basic common issues, common challenges that people have with meditation. And it could be anything from logistics to I'm actually sitting and this happens to, pain or whatever it is. So this shouldn't be something that you have to think too hard about, because you should have something that you experience pretty much every time that you meditate. So go ahead and tell me, what's something that you experience? Sir?
People usually complain about anxious thoughts, being nervous or worried about stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But more often than not, I have the issue of having feelings and thoughts that are more happy, joyful, and exciting.
Mm-hmm.
Those are great, but they get in the way of the meditation.
Yeah. So we're sitting and meditating, and oftentimes you nailed it. A lot of times when you start off, your mind is going to all of these dark places, and it's like, I didn't know that was lurking there in the recesses of my brain, and I don't like it. And a lot of people have that experience and stop meditating because they don't like what they see. They don't want to have to deal with those things. Meditation is about coming face to face with and dealing with those things. But another thing that you might start to experience is like really nice thoughts or emotions or just feelings, even like physical sensations. And this is one of my favorite things that I have to like continue to laugh at myself with meditation is still to this day. I'll be sitting there and I will have what seems to be the most incredible insight. I have like just solved all of the problems of humanity and the universe with my meditation. I got this incredible realization. Oh my God, this is the answer to everything. And then I'm just like, oh, I got to do this, and then I got to do that. I got to tell this person about it and all this stuff. And I stopped meditating a long time ago, because this is another way that your brain and your ego loves to take you out of meditation. It's like it recognizes that thinking the negative stuff doesn't work anymore. So now I'm going to have this incredible, deep kind of insight thing that you're convinced when you're meditating is like ground shaking, you have earth shattering, you have completely solved it all. And especially those late night meditations, you're meditating when you're a little bit tired and you're like, you're like already in this other state, and you think, I got to do something about this. That is just another way that we get taken out of our meditation. And you can even think of it like, with regard to those experiences that we have, we might have things that strike us as being like out-of-body experiences. We might have like, warming sensation with our body. We might actually have some kind of a spontaneous thing that pops into our mind as a visualization. It becomes like a vision of something. And all of that stuff is great and should happen, even including the negative crap thoughts that you really don't want to have and don't enjoy having. That is all part of meditation. It is supposed to happen. And let it go right away, right? So you have a really nice thought that you really want to just stay in that little pocket with that thought, or that, that amazing realization that you had. You really want to keep exploring it and think about it. Just let it go. And Stephen Brown used to talk about this, like, what if I'm meditating and I can actually, like, I could literally levitate off of the ground with my meditation. what am I going to do with that? I'm going to go like on TV and become famous because I can levitate. It's just another thing to get over. It's just another thing to let go of and get past, because what we're seeking is beyond all of that stuff. So one thing that you can do, this is something that I've only done a couple of times, but it's like if you're in this place with your meditation where you're finding like I'm getting all of these thoughts and things that I really feel like I need to explore further, and also like let's say that I'm sitting and I remember the thing that I really needed to do, and sometimes you'll have the thought process that goes like, okay, I can't forget about this thing because when I'm done meditating, I'm not going to get up now, but I've got to remember this and keep it in the back of my head so that when I'm done meditating, then I can do that thing. Well, that's just going to screw up your meditation too. So if you need to, you keep a notebook or something next to you, and if you absolutely have to, write it down, forget about it, go back to your meditation. That is like a kind of a last-ditch effort to be able to return to meditation. But I would say if you find yourself consistently having the issue, and you're just running through this thought of things I need to do or these amazing insights or whatever, just write it down and you can come back to it later on. And you will usually find that this thing was not that important. Yes, ma'am?
So strangely, I don't have any issues with meditation,
Mm-hmm.
but you can relate this, it's more with waking life when your intuition starts to morph into like worry, and then your thoughts create like life of their own. So how do you just sort of stop that suffering quickly? Like what happened?
How is this a meditation?
If you're assuming life as a meditation.
Okay, this is a bit of a stretch, but I agree, obviously. I want my life to be a moving meditation as often as possible. Okay, so I'm attempting to be in a meditative state. I'm headed towards that just state of enlightenment where I'm just constantly in it, and you're having intuition that morphs into...
Once in a rare moment when your intuition just goes beyond something and it turns into worry, and you know it's not real, but then you're convinced it's real. I'm sure it could happen to someone in meditation, to assume that, but
Sure.
for me that happens in waking life.
Yeah. So your question is kind of about intuition, which is a little bit related to what I was just talking about. Like you're going to be meditating and you will have, feelings or thoughts and things that seem to you to be very real, and they may be, they may not be. What you want to be able to do on some level is again just let it go. You're talking about, and also like the more that you meditate, the more that you should start to be in tune with your intuition, the more you should start to just, recognize things that are going on that you didn't recognize before, not from a logical place, but from a, like, I know that this is happening. It's a sixth sense. It's something that is just kind of naturally occurring in your brain, rather than I'm sitting down and trying to figure something out. It just pops in, poof. And that might occur when you are actually meditating. That might occur when you're just moving about your business throughout the day. And you want to know about that in relationship or in relation to turning into worry and concern. And it's like, I want to be able to use this like a spidey sense, my intuition that knows when something is up, and it could be something like an actual physical attack. It could more often and more likely be, I'm recognizing, I'm becoming aware of some kind of a challenge in my life, some kind of an issue. I've got this thing that's been going on with this person for forever, and I finally had this intuition that, this is what's really happening. This is some kind of insight into that. And what we want to be able to do is recognize when we have a thought like that is actually just worry, concern, it's paranoia, it is I'm going beyond intuition into I'm making stuff up in my brain. And the way to recognize that is to know where it's coming from, because intuition is not going to turn into worry or paranoia, intuition comes from a different place from those types of thoughts. And as I have explained in previous talks, I don't have intuition. Like, I don't play with that part of my brain and existence that much. I can tell when someone's about to punch me. I don't know what's going on in the rest of life. And these, every once in a while I'll have something like that, and I will usually, honestly, just let it go. Maybe I'm too lazy to decide whether this was intuition or paranoia or concern or whatever. Or maybe I just think, like, you know what? Whatever it is, it's going to make itself obvious at some point or another. This is like the way that I'm getting off on a little bit of a tangent, but this is what I think of conspiracy theories. I think that there are a lot of interesting things out there in the world that people believe in, and interesting is the nicest possible way that I can put this. But I just think that, you know what, if it's real, we're going to find out about it someday, and that's kind of a messed up way of looking at it, because you might decide, like, well, what if the conspiracy is something that kills us all? We're never going to figure it out. Something's really bad going on behind the scenes, and we've got to be able to do something about it. I think someone else is going to take care of it. I'm just going to meditate. But the truth is that those things that we have intuition about, are connected to reality. And those things that we are paranoid about or have this overactive sense of concern about are not connected to reality. That's not real. And in my experience, I only find out which one it was when it actually happens. And the nice thing about that is I didn't spend all that time worrying about this thing that never happened. And I didn't spend all that time worrying about the thing that did happen anyways. I just kind of went about living life and meditation, and then when it happened, I go, oh, okay, time to deal with this thing. So that is my way of dealing with it. I'm not telling you that you need to ignore your intuition. I'm saying that is the simplest way to deal with it, is to not have to worry about whether it was intuition or anxiety. I just let it go. I label it as thought, and then I kind of laugh it off and move on. But if you want to be able to tell the difference by recognizing where it comes from. If you have a situation that you're constantly worrying about, and it kind of enters into your brain in the same way that it normally does, it's like, I've got this thing, I remember it, I'm thinking about it, I'm going through it in my head, I'm replaying those same old tapes. Anything that comes from that is not intuition. Anything that comes from that is worry, anxiety, whatever. If I have something that pops into my mind kind of spontaneously without coming from that same train of concern, that same old tape that I'm playing over and over again, that is at least more likely to be intuition in my experience. So at least try that, play around with that. And again, if you are experiencing this when you're meditating, during the actual meditation, just let it go no matter what it was. Label it as thought. It'll be there. If it was that great of a thought, if it was that great of an intuition, if it's like such an incredible invention that you came up with in your head, it'll come back. It's not like it's going to be there and it just disappears for the rest of humanity. It'll come back at some point. Other things. Go ahead.
I just realized the solution is I haven't been meditating enough. So therefore,
that's always the solution. You gotta meditate more, and you'll notice that you get better with your intuition, and you'll recognize these things more. All of these, and this is the general cop-out answer to the way of dealing with all of these things is meditate more, because even if it's a problem that you are consistently encountering with meditation, even that will just kind of melt away with enough meditation. You will be figuring it out And so to stop meditating, to meditate less, is not the answer. Other things that you deal with, sir?
Talking about out-of-body experiences and visualizations, hallucinations, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
I have experienced this like a few times. Actually, earlier today, it was pretty insignificant. I was up on Mars and there were aliens doing cartwheels on the planet.
Uh-huh.
But there are other times.
That sounds very significant. He discovered aliens on Mars.
There are other times where I really try to go deep, and I sometimes feel like something is like trying to communicate with me, or I guess share its presence, like something that is either a manifestation of a part of me or something out of Earth, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And how can I tell if I'm going insane or really finding something?
Yeah. You know, it's kind of related to the last question. You want to recognize where it's coming from, and if it's something that you are experiencing over and over again it's like I have this thought that I'm playing over and over again in my head, and it's like I'm attached to it. We want to be able to let that go. These other experiences, you're not going to love my answer because it's kind of what I just said, but I had an experience when I was about your age, first starting to meditate, and I was sitting very still, having like a really nice meditation at Sifu Brown School during meditation class, and I had this experience like my head was floating up away from my body, and I was sure that if I opened up my eyes, I would be looking down at everyone's heads in meditation. And of course, as soon as I had that thought, I was like, whoa, this is real, this is sweet, I think I did it. I did meditation. and I, of course, the next time I went to meditate, I was like, can't wait to do that again. I'm gonna be, really rocketing into the next, reality, whatever that is that I'm experiencing. I can't wait to do that again. And that shows up as some kind of an attachment, which does not lead into meditation. So then I'm thinking about that thing, and I gotta keep having it, And I did not have it. The harder I tried, the worse my meditation was, and I never got anything close to that again. I asked Sifu Brown about it. I said, Sifu, I had this experience. It felt like an out-of-body experience. Like, can you tell me about it? And I, went into all this detail and explained the thing, and he listened to me, and he said, keep going. Keep meditating. That is my answer to this. Keep going. And I kept meditating. One of the most important things to recognize, this is another, none of you guys are talking about this, so I'm going to have to inject this from my own experience. Another very common thing that people experience is I get to a place in my meditation, and then I feel like I'm getting worse. I feel like I'm thinking more. I feel like my meditation is not as good as it used to be. And I've had plenty of amazing meditations and plenty of weird experiences like that where I had it and then I didn't have it, and then I get in my head like that means that I'm getting worse at meditation. I'm not having those cool experiences. I'm not being able to sit with as little thought. I'm not getting as much clarity or depth with my meditation. And this, I'll come back to the other thing, but in general, this is something that you must be experiencing. If you are not experiencing that feeling of getting worse at meditation, it means that you're not doing the thing that Catherine was talking about, which is recognizing where you are with your meditation and being connected to reality. Because what happens is we're meditating at this level, and it's the same thing as with our physical martial arts practice. We're at this level, and then our understanding jumps up. In physical practice, this looks like I'm throwing my kick Can you see my kick? Can you see my punch? I'm throwing my punch like this, and I'm like, I've got the best punch. I'm as good as everybody else out here. I'm so good at martial arts. And then I hear something in class, or I see somebody, and I recognize, oh, I'm supposed to be making a tight fist. My punch sucks. I'm so terrible at this. What happened? I'm getting worse, right? So I recognize this, and then I finally work up to the, okay, I got it, and I got that fist is tight. And then I see, oh, wait a minute, I'm supposed to have this other hand up in a good guard. Oh, I'm getting worse. And it's because we have this leap in understanding. We're looking down on the place that our physical skill is, and that gives us the experience of going backwards and getting worse. But that experience is growth. That is the pain of growth and progress. So you have this leap in understanding, and then you work up to that point, and now you have to make another leap in understanding. And you're still having to work up to get to the place where you recognize that you should be, and in some cases where you've tricked yourself into thinking that this is what I was always doing. What happened? With meditation, it's like that. It's like I sit to meditate, like my first meditation, I had a really nice moment that long where I just thought about my breath and nothing else, and it was so nice, that feeling of just everything just kind of falls away, and that lasted for that long. And by the end of the meditation, I was huddled in a painful fetal position against the side of the wall, because not only could I not clear my mind, but my body was in, I didn't know how to sit properly. It was all bad. It was a disaster. But every time I tried to meditate for the next couple of times, I was looking for that. It's like, how can I get that clarity, that feeling again? It's not going to feel exactly the same way as it did the first time, because the first time was the first time that I felt it, and it was so new and unique and weird. The next time you feel it, you might not recognize it as being such a powerful experience. That's just one way to look at it. But in general, you're recognizing that you're having all of these thoughts, and that makes you feel like you're getting worse. But actually, this is my understanding and recognition of all of the thoughts. I'm looking down on my ability to meditate, and then I have to work up to get to that level of skill with my meditation again. That also feels like I'm going backwards. So to try to go back to that story, I was sitting and meditating another time, months later, and I had the same type of experience, or what felt to me to be the same or similar type of experience, where I felt like I had this floaty head. And of course, this time I went, I got it, it's back. But then I recognized when I finished that meditation that my head was like this. And it wasn't that I was sleeping, because I was awake, but I at least thought in that moment, and this may or may not be what was actually happening, but to the best of my understanding, that probably what was happening was I didn't have the oxygen going to my brain that I am used to having, so I was getting like a mild high from my posture, and I was just getting loopy with my meditation. I felt like, I did some drugs and I was up there on the ceiling. And that is not to say that any out-of-body experience you have is because you don't have oxygen going to your brain. It's that I recognize that just by continuing to go on with my meditation. And then looking back on it, I knew that, okay, so that thing that I thought was really amazing, that I got really attached to, was not as amazing and worth being attached to as I previously understood, because I could even go back and remember, like, as soon as I had the experience, if I thought about it, I had this consciousness, this kind of like logical process with my brain of, oh, this is great, this means that, and this means that, and I was still having this kind of experience. I was still having this kind of out-of-body experience. That kind of logical attachment, that kind of thinking about it, that kind of recognition should make it disappear, and it didn't. So it meant that I was probably just not getting enough oxygen to my brain. And I've had other things that I haven't had to go back and kind of, poo-poo in my own brain about. That was that was nothing. But whatever it is, again, the answer is just to keep going. So you probably have heard something tonight that's similar to something that you've experienced, and I'm sure that you have all kinds of other stuff that you've experienced. The way to deal with it is to not give up, not chase certain things, to just continue with your practice, and whatever happens, just keep that consistency, keep the length, keep trying to lengthen the meditation, and then the depth and the, all those amazing things, or all of that stillness will come with time. Let's practice that now. Sit comfortably.